Good afternoon, and welcome to all those who might be watching this short presentation. Today is Saturday, September the 21st, around 3:30 p.m. Today's theme will be who would you like to be in the driver's seat of the bus called U.S. economy? In this election cycle, it is very important to mention the background of the participants for the president's seat, chair. Before President Trump announced to run for a presidential seat in 2015, his company, according to the Wikipedia, was having 22,500 employees, or 22,450, something like that, which is quite a bit company. In his career, he achieved several $billion worth of goods and services. And he was passing through all storms in his career, from youth, when he was starting to work for his father, to these days, well enough, rich enough not to need to go into the arena of the politics, of mess and everything else. And in his career, he was a lifetime supporter of Democratic candidates for anything. They liked him, especially they liked his money for donation and support. And he was being celebrity for a variety of means, as well target of the celebrities on the TV shows, when they were pressing him because of his good ideas. Is he ever going to run for the office of the President of the United States? And he was all the time refusing to accept to do. One day, except one time, he was pissed off. He said, only if country goes into the hellhole, he may consider to take it, to save it. And he didn't have to do that, but he did it for 4 years and received so unbelievable barrage of attacks from so-called mainstream media, which I would like to rename into mainstream mafia media. And he experienced everything in his life, lawsuits and everything else, and he built an empire of several $billion, 22,500 employees. One end of the coin, one side of the coin, and the other side of the coin is Kamala Harris, who never ever created anything, employ anybody, all the time, lifetime. She was on the sustained manager or fodder of the federal and local government, state government. And her predecessor, Joe Biden, for 48 years also was living on the federal government and state government taxes, never creating anything, except in last 8 years his family and himself created 20 shell corporations, shell companies, LLC, where only employee of the company, without any assets, any service, anything at all, just to have a name, to fake corporations. One person, 18 years of age or older, was entitled to have a LLC corporation, shell corporation, empty corporation, nothing is there, just the account to receive millions of dollars of the variety of sources, including domestic and foreign. And now both of them were without any experience of running the show of the business in the United States or anywhere else. Now you choose. You want one who has a knowledge of the driving the bus, and somebody who has no clue What the hell is that? No brakes, no steering wheel, no nothing. Just fill it up the gas and go, push the button. And I don't think so that you will disagree with me that second choice is very dangerous. And I would like those who are independent to think about not for themselves, but for the children, of our grandchildren, because we are in such a trouble that debt of the nation, which is officially on the sustaining life, on the in the amount of $35 trillion, which could be managed by monthly payment for the immediate debts instead of 35. Actually, Professor Anthony Davis from University of Duquesne in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, explains very well, brilliantly explained the problems. And he has a one story of 21 minutes called 10 Myths of Debt of Federal Government, explains that that is not $35 trillion, which is going to be serviced by $4 trillion of every year collection in the taxes, out of which we have to pay $1 trillion just for interest to those who were borrowing us their money, which is approximately 2.5% of interest, but not 35 trillion, but $165 trillion, because unfunded obligations of federal government are running into the sphere of $165 trillion. He explained also, yes, the federal government has some certain assets, and that is about 500,000 acres of land. They could sell that one for a few of the $1 trillion, $4 or $5 trillion. Plus, we have about 8 tons of gold in Fort Knox, Kentucky, where we have about $500 billion, and some other assets totaling about $20 trillion. That means around $145 trillion we still don't have a coverage for. We own that much money. And neither of these two people were paying any attention, contrary to everything. Kamala Harris even was deciding vote in printing and spending additional money for something which didn't have a coverage in the life of the people, for goods or services, maybe services, but not for goods, because we don't produce much at all, except farmers do produce and we sell it. But that is not sufficient because farmers create less than 2% of population. And at the same time, these debts are $1 trillion of the interest, which is basically about 25% of all collected taxes per year. And when you subtract just paying $1 trillion for the debts of the payments, for the interest itself, there is left over about $3 trillion, and out of those $3 trillion, 33% of that money is allocated to the federal government's agency called Department of Defense, which former congressman and candidate for presidency for Democratic Party, Dennis Kucinich, he proposed to change that name from Department of Defense into Department of Offense, and if necessary, create new department called Department of Defense. And that will be appropriate name, and then if that name is in existence, we will be less reluctant to give them 1/3 of every money left over for the expenses of federal government after payment of 1/4 of all money to those lenders of the money to us to be able to operate business. And now up to all of those who are not decided to think about not themselves, but for their grandchildren, because this debt of $165 trillion simply cannot be paid in the next 100 years. That means our and yours and mine grandchildren, grandchildren will not be able to afford to go on vacation, spend money to enjoy, but they will be obliged to work, be workaholic, work a lifetime for those days of vacation, to put extra money to cover up for the future expenses related to the increase of income taxation, which will be no choice but do that. And because we cannot tax ourselves of the out into the prosperity, but we have to eliminate payment of $1 trillion per year just for interest, the money, which is amount which could save problems for every single homeless person, from military people to civilian people to people with mental disability, with drugs, everything else. Everybody could be sheltered just fine with $1 trillion of the money allocated for their shelters, apartments, whatever you call it, for 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 years. Instead of paying that one to somebody who lended us money, we will have plenty of money to build unbelievable wealth for everybody. And that could be one good indicator that government cares. And if they want to have a kind of communism, that will be one good element, plus point for those who are promoting that, regardless what the Soviet Union collapsed because of that. But that time was different industrial revolution, very primitive, and that could not sustain. Now that will be possible, but again, after development of robotics, everything else, when people will be in position not to really work, but just monitor machines, how do they work, and having a regular salary and living normal living and everything else. But until we get $1 trillion per year just for interest, for nothing, that is huge credit card debt. It is equivalent if we have a salary of, let's say, $60,000, and we have to pay $15,000 just for the credit card's interest per year. That will be left over only $45,000 to spend, and you have a living expenses covered. Or in my case, I had a case where I was buying one car, Honda Accord 2016, 4 years ago, 2020, 4 years ago, and I paid $23,000 at the time when I had $100,000 in the banking account. And if I choose, I could at that time buy 4 cars and spend $92,000 and having $8,000 still in the bank on the savings. Now, if I didn't do that, but I waited 4 more years, and today's date I will probably have on the bank $101,000 because interest is 0.2%. In that case, I will be able to buy cars at a price of $33,000, not $23,000. And 33 times 4 is 99,000. Times 3 is $99,000. And I will be able to buy 3 cars, not 4 cars. And I will have a leftover of additional $1,000 plus $1,000, $2,000. That means in 4 years period, inflation killed 1 car in my possession. I lost basically $30,000 or $25,000 in 4 years because of the inflation. Inflation is such a magnitude that our grandchildren will not be able to repay it back. Thank you very much and have a nice day.